Hi, this is Dave and Tim with a single malt review, and today we're leaving single malts behind, going back to bourbon country, Lawrenceburg, Kentucky.
Yeah, we are, with this special wild turkey. Those keen-sighted among you will be able to tell by the girth of this one that this is a travel retail, a duty-free. Out of the road, Mingus. Oh, good. Oh, he's back. No. There we go. Oh, elegant. Very elegant. Anyway, this is Wild Turkey Father and Son, 13 years old. It's a bit of a curious wee thing here. 13, not something you typically see on a bottle of bourbon. Numbers, not something you typically see on a bottle of bourbon. But as we will discover, I think this has some real similarities to another age-stated bourbon from the people over at the Turkey, and that is by, well, just one Russell, Russell's Reserve. This is a bit of Russell's Reserve Turbo Edition, I think, but we'll do it properly.
Yeah.
Have a wee taste of this
Russell
one.
Reserve is a 10-year-old expression, and this one adds another 3, we're at full 13 years. Last time we did a bourbon which was even close, I think it was probably, I don't know, Jim Beam's Signature Craft, which is 12 years old, and really good, I might add.
This is weird old for bourbon. Aged bourbon, I mean, it doesn't not exist. There's plenty of it out there, but to see it above 10 is pretty rare. To see it above 10 in an affordable format, astonishingly rare.
Yeah.
So I was very pleased to see this one roll along at really nothing more than the price of pound for pound normal Russell's Reserve, which is a fantastic bourbon. So I thought, hell, 3 more years, one more Russell. Just more of a good thing, I suppose. What could possibly go wrong? And by and large, I don't think anything's gone wrong. It's just maybe not quite as different as I was maybe hoping for, but we'll have to see.
Bottled at the fairly pedestrian 43% ABV, or 86 proof.
And those of you who caught up, we really liked the Russell's Reserve. They got damn close to a full-on 90 from our combined score first time out. So this one has got big shoes to fill. Now, pretty mild colour there for an aged bourbon, especially considering that that's intrinsically been in fresh virgin oak that has had a fairly mild life there. I don't know how they had the difference in aging these bourbons that are destined to be old. I think they probably put them somewhere pretty cool. Otherwise, you just have radically dark, radically oaky bourbon. By the time 13 years rolled around, think to these double casked bourbons. They've been in not one but 2 bourbon casks, no age on them, and those are out of control with oak. 13 years, whoosh, that would do a number on it. So yeah, this has been aged very carefully, and I'm not quite sure how they get away with it, but there is a science to it, I am sure. So on the nose, this guy.
Lots of popcorn, lots of rye.
Yeah.
Caramel and toffee.
And it's lighter. It's not this huge spice bomb.
Yeah, not heaps of vanilla either.
It's that wild turkey sort of the mellowness, the mellow complexity that I associate with bourbons that come out of Turkey, as opposed to Bardstown's, your Jim Beams, things like that. They don't have that hugely spicy and hugely sweet edge. They're a bit more savoury, a bit more complex.
But there is a good maple syrup note, adding a thread of sweetness too.
Yeah. And there is a little bit of prickle in there. 13 years, it has not exactly calmed down. It is still, the fiery bourbon that you know and love,
Even
ideally.
at 43% rather than a full barrel proof.
Yeah. So, full strength, on the tongue, what have we got?
Ooh.
Quite a lot all at once.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts here, and it's a little difficult to really button them all down, but there is a whole lot of that. The caramel and maple syrup is huge, and getting past them to get to the more intrinsic nuances is the tricky part, because the popcorn and the spice is still there, and they're there pretty strongly, but the maple and the toffee is so enormous on this.
You get more of popcorn, rye, but then the maple syrup, toffee, but with a kind of a fiery dryness as well. Maybe a bit of cinnamon, just a hint of vanilla, keeping it oaky and sweet.
Yeah. I think the really good parts of this whiskey, the really, really beautiful bits, are in the finish. So you've got to kind of wait, you've got to coax it out, and the finish is really still going. This is where I think these aged wild turkeys really, really shine, is they get this wonderful, complex tail to the palate, which I just don't think many other bourbons really develop. And I think it is because the oak management on this is so mild. It isn't this huge wooden beast of a bourbon like a Booker Nose or even a what's the other one? A Baker Beam might be. Both really, really, really oak dominated or at least driven bourbons. This one, way older than both of them put together, and yet kind of a light touch.
Yeah, it's a, like you say, the nuance and just the complexity in the finish is what's getting me. This is developing the new flavours like milk chocolate and white coffee. It's just going in new directions I wouldn't expect. Add a tiny little water, emulate the effect of having an ice cube in there, just to see what happens. It doesn't need water, of course, but can't hurt to just add a splash and see what happens.
I get quite a nice smoky char out of that with a bit of water.
Oh, yeah, it has enlivened the wood a bit.
And then maybe a wee bit more fruit, more spice definitely on the palate. I kind of like it at the 43. I think the 43, I think bourbon is a bit happier being a bit stronger normally, and so I think 43 at its peak strength there, it's not getting any stronger, is where it does its best work. But it hasn't destroyed it by any means.
So it would carry an ice cube quite nicely.
Although the bottle, the classy sipping bourbon bottle might frown on you for putting an ice cube in this one. But no, I wouldn't hold it against you. The real question here, I think, is how does this stack up against Russell's Reserve? Because as I said in the intro, this is very much a version of Russell's Reserve. This isn't really. I mean, it looks different year, double the Russells, but it's really as a special edition, a turbo edition. Of that Russell's Reserve, and I think it's going to be judged. I'm going to judge it by: is it better or is it worse than that flagship whiskey, the Russell's Reserve, 10 years old? Because that really is what a truly, truly awesome bourbon in terms of the available on the shelf ones. And there's something about this one. There's a lack of. Well, there's not a lack of. I think the Russell's Reserve 10. At least the one that I tried most recently, is a little bit more complexity to it, or rather, the complexity is a bit more obvious. This one, I think, is a little bit of a sweeter bourbon, and that makes the more nuanced aspects a little bit more difficult to see. And that doesn't really, it's not going to hammer it with my score. I forget whether I was the 90 or you were the 90 with the...
I gave it 88, you gave it 92.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, it's coming down. It's an 89 from me. Not going to really, really tang it. I just think the Russell's Reserve, it's a little bit more better assembled than this one. What do you think?
I'm heading in a broadly similar direction because I didn't re-watch our full review of the Russell's Reserve because I hate watching myself on camera, and also I wanted to go into this one fresh. Aside from checking the scores on the previous one, I don't recall my notes. I don't honestly remember too much about the whiskey itself, only that I tried it and enjoyed it a lot. But said and done, this one rates an 89 from me. It's got a lighter body to it. It's despite the age, it's quite it's not a very heavy, syrupy, hard-hitting bourbon. But that's okay because it makes up for it with the complexity, just the amount that it's got going on, the flavour journey. And it's still classically bourbon through and through, but it just adds details and flourishes here and there, which just elevate it.
Yeah. An interesting case, again, of more in the bottle, and yet somehow slightly less of the overall experience. Exactly the same thing that we saw with the Glenmorangie, what do they even call it? Not the Kinder Ruban, the one that became 14 years old.
Kinder Ruban did have...
It did, maybe. More age, and then yet that was slightly less going on, and maybe this is a similar situation here. Maybe just topping it up with additional years in Russell's wasn't quite enough to really, really cause this one to sing. But that said, it's still a really, really, really good bourbon. Yeah. It's just, and I'm being unfair ranking it against one of its peers, but that's just exactly what's going to happen. You get a number and a Jimmy Russell's name on a bottle of whiskey. That's where the zeitgeist is going, and it's going to go there immediately, and they must have known this, so walked into that one otherwise. So yeah, I think we put that one through the ringer about as harshly as we can, and yeah, still fantastic bourbon. Just can't quite knock off the superlative majesty of that Russell's Reserve 10. There's just something about that bourbon.
Age statement bourbon is tough to get. Double digit age statements, even harder still. So being able to get one at an affordable price from a known quality distiller, great.
Yeah,
And
tremendous stuff. I'd like to see when we've got when one of the Russells takes another swing at the king. Maybe Eddie will knock him off with that one. We'll see. We shall see. Anyway, keep doing what you're doing over there. Turkey, we will be back with another one of your ones very, very soon, I'm sure, because they're just too damn good. So, this has been the Single Malt Review. We are going back to Scotch now, and we might even stay there for a measurable amount of time this time. We will see. No promises. Sludger.